Hi everyone, this is Jodie from Finding Balance, and I just wanted to share some tips with you about the lung meridian just because of what's going on in the world at the moment with coronavirus. First of all, for the anatomy buffs or the meridian buffs, I'm sorry, this is very DIY drawing, so it's definitely not anatomically correct, but I wanted the visual people to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about here. So let's jump straight in. There were 12 main meridians that are mirror imaged on the other side of the body. So today we're doing lung, which lucky for me is a nice easy one to draw. So starting up at the top here, we've got 2 points, and then it spreads down, comes down the outside of our arm all the way along to the tip of the thumb. So it runs in this downward direction here. It's actually upward, but the way I'm demonstrating it is downward. And so what we want to do first is all meridians you can either think of as an energy circuit or as perhaps a river flowing in one direction. So sometimes there are blockages in that sort of flow, and we can actually flush those blockages energetically. So to do that, we trace meridian backwards once, and then we trace it forwards 3 times. Now, keeping in mind, this isn't acupuncture. We don't have to be specific here, so nice, broad, sort of vague hand placing is fine as long as the energetic intention is there. Starting first by tracing it backwards. So from the tip of the thumb, we're going to come up the outside of the arm, down the chest, and shake it off. And then forwards 3 times. So top, down the outside, off the thumb, top, down the outside, off the thumb, and top, down the outside, off the thumb. And that's all it is, a nice basic flushing of that meridian, trying to get the stagnant energy coming backwards and then flowing forwards again so that we have a beautiful flow happening. Every meridian has a meridian pair. So lung meridian is paired with large intestine, which makes a lot of sense when we're talking about what's happening with the world at the moment, because lung meridian emotionally also represents grief, and to some extent is a large player in our sense of self-esteem. So our self-power, self-worth. Anyone who knows chakras really well is going to know that grief and the self-esteem thing play in really well with heart chakra and solar plexus chakra, which makes sense. Heart chakra obviously is responsible for lungs, and solar plexus down the bottom here is affected by our diaphragm, so big deep breaths, which if our lung meridian isn't functioning properly and we can't take those big deep breaths, is going to become affected, so those self-esteem issues are going to be drawn up. So now that I've done the, wrong side, now that I have done the flushing, next I want to move on to the source point. So every meridian has a source point. If we think of meridians as pools, streams of energy, they each have a certain point that's sort of a wider pool. And this is where generally stagnation can occur. It's where energy comes in, winds up and leaves, but it's also because it's a wider point is where it can sit, become stagnant and really block that flow. So for lung meridian, the source point is L9, which, if you have a look on my wrist here, it's just this outside dot there. So what it is, it's right on the wrist crease, and it's towards the outside at the thumb, a little bit more inwards. It's not right around the side here, a little bit more towards the front. So what we do with the source point is we massage it. It doesn't have to be firm. So we want to sort of massage it as firm as you can so that it feels good, but we don't actually want to cause any pain. So if you're feeling pain, it's because there is stagnation there and it needs it, but just be gentle with yourself. Only do it to the depth that feels comfortable for you. Again, this isn't acupuncture, so you don't have to be completely specific. If you're unsure, feel free to make sort of broader, wider circles. You'll be able to feel where you need it. So sort of listen to your body energetically and find the point that you know is your sort of lung source point, the spot that resonates with you. Whenever we're doing any energetic stuff with the meridians, I like to always make sure that I do it left and right side. So let's just go over that again now, focusing on the right side of the body, starting with the backwards flush. So thumb coming out, we're going upwards, outside of the arm, in and flushed into the heart, shake it off, and forwards 3 times, coming down to the thumb and shaking it off. Again, shaking it off, and again, shaking that off. And then finding the source point on the right-hand side, begin to massage into there. So like I said, each meridian has a pair. Lungs pair is large intestine, so coming in with grief and with self-esteem issues, as the lung emotionally represents, large intestine, metaphysically and when you think about its actual physical function, represents letting go. So large intestine is letting go of that old emotion, letting go of that pain, letting go of whatever it is that's troubling you. So next we're going to move to the source point for large intestine, which is an excellent point for letting go. Any pregnant women out there, I am sorry, but this is not recommended for you, purely because the letting go element of it is so strong that it is known to trigger early labor. So if you're pregnant, maybe sit this one out. But if you're not pregnant, trigger fingers like this, and the point where your crease ends, moving into your thumb and finger, is where we grasp. And again, it's not acupuncture, so it can be quite a nice broad sort of non-specific point. Really work your way around, dig in there, find where you need it. If it's sore, then back off. If it's not sore, then just go for it, really massaging it. This is a bit of a famous acupressure point, so if anyone's ever suffered from chronic migraines or headaches, you've probably been told or somewhere along the line found that massaging this point is fantastic for that. That's again because of the letting go element. Migraines, headaches, they're often energetically associated with the holding on of emotions that we don't need. And just pain in general, definitely, but more specifically head, neck, jaw, headache sort of pains. And just shake that off there, switching over to the other side. So again, thumb and forefinger together, we're going where the crease ends and just getting in nice and deep to that sort of webbed part of your finger. These are really quite tender on me, so this is nice. The next thing I want to do is just some neurolymphatic points. The reason I have this little image drawn on my chest here, this not so an anatomically correct image drawn on my chest, is just because when we're getting into these points with tapping later on, I want people to be aware that over this, or at the very bottom of the sternum, so sternum's broken into 3 parts. Got the top part, the body, and then the bottom part, which is called your xiphoid process. Anyone that's done CPR will know that with pressure, and it does take a lot of pressure, but I don't know how overzealous you may be, overexcited for this all. It does take a lot of pressure, but that point can become inflamed, and with enough pressure, it can also snap off. So avoiding that very tip, so underneath where our ribs end, coming up, there's a little tip point here. That's actually the xiphoid process of your sternum. So going gently on that when we get to that. But for now, what we're doing is raking in between the lungs. I'm not going to rake too hard because my texture will come off, but raking in between the lungs. The neurolymphatics more so are with in between the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ribs. So just getting into these points right next to the sternum, massaging in them, raking through them, whatever feels good for you. It absolutely doesn't hurt to come up and do the higher up ones. In between our ribs, we have muscles called intercostals. They are big players they actually lift and separate the ribs for expansion of the chest so that we can take nice deep breaths. So even if you're not on I've got red on my fingers. Even if you're not on the neurolymphatic points and you're coming up higher or going down a bit lower, you're still doing great things for those intercostals. So opening up those muscles that you want to be able to contract, but also if you've been coughing, if you've been sneezing, or if you've been crying, that's a lot of movement, sort of sucking in and out, taking deep breaths. Myself, I've been coughing, so mine are a little bit sore too. And so getting into them is definitely very helpful. Overall, it's going to help out with the lung meridian, the lungs themselves, and also your heart chakra. So we want to be able to massage over that area. If you're a Reiki master, or just if you practice Reiki at all, you can absolutely send some Reiki love through into there too. And then next we're going to do some tapping. So this is the part where we need to just be a little bit mindful of that xiphoid process. So tapping over the point here stimulates the neurolymphatics in this area, stimulates the heart chakra, stimulates the lung meridian. And sitting behind our sternum, keep tapping, I'm just going to stop now so I'm not getting all croaky. Sitting behind our sternum, more so the sort of top half, is also our thymus, which is a very important lymphatic gland. It is directly linked to the heart chakra, so it is the sort of the gland that belongs to heart chakra, but it's also linked to lung meridian, and it is where our T cells mature and send out into our lymphatic system to fight off disease. So if you're suffering from actual dis-ease of the lungs at the moment, or dis-ease in any way, thymus tapping is a fantastic way to start to stimulate a little bit of that immune system. Lungs themselves in traditional Chinese medicine are the first line of defense against disease. After that comes the spleen. So really important as a whole for immunity that we look after our lung meridian and our large intestine meridian. So the bringing in and the letting go, it's the same for disease. So we don't want it to come in, we want to let it go. Lungs also cover skin in traditional Chinese medicine. So if you think to more of a medical perspective, often you'll hear that skin is the first line of defense against immunity for obvious reasons. So that plays into it as well. Moving on from there, I do want to now, for people who know meridians, you might be thinking, why isn't she talking about either the tonification point or the sedation point? And that is because I don't know you. I don't know what is going on within your lung meridian at the moment, so I don't know if sedating it or strengthening it is what you need. What you will find is a really good little exercise to find this out for yourself is to either continually do some forward stroking or some backward stroking of the meridian line. So if you were, say, thinking that you need to strengthen your lung meridian, then you would start from the top and just do a series of stroking the meridian forward. So coming down outside of the arm and then off the thumb. You can do that quite fast. The intention's there, so it doesn't need to be slow. Nice broad strokes. If you're like me and sedation of your lung is what's necessary at the moment, then backwards strokes is what's going to feel good. So bringing it right down into the heart, shaking it off, stroking backwards. So for me, I have a cough. Generally, when meridians need sedating, it's when something's going on within them. So if you're experiencing pain along a meridian line, if you're experiencing inflammation, for me, the sort of need for sedation, the need to get rid of energy is the mucus that I'm coughing up. So trying to just calm that lung down, chase the inflammation out of it, and it feels so good to trace it backwards. I can already feel myself breathing deeper now. So play with that, go forwards, go backwards, see which one works best with you, and then run with that. All right. So those are some nice simple exercises that you can do for the lung meridian and for the large intestine meridian. Now I want to talk about the most important part. You're probably thinking, why didn't you start with that? Well, because people like action. So I wanted to show you a bit of action first. But the most important part is not just that the energy, like identifying the energy, it's knowing why. So why is my lung meridian needing some help? Obviously, if you're actually suffering from an infection, virus, something like that, well, then it was because the immune system part of it wasn't strong enough. Your lung would have already been deficient and it let it in if you sort of play along that traditional Chinese medicine theory. I want to talk about the grief side of things. So like I said, lungs represent grief. And in today's day and age, there is a lot of grief. Energetically, and I do, like, my first love, my first passion is energy medicine. It all started with chakras. I've only semi-recently discovered meridians. But energetically, things can change so easily and so quickly that quite often doing energy work feels amazing, but you find you just have to keep doing it, keep boosting the system, keep doing it, which is awesome. You should keep doing it because it should feel amazing. You should love it. It is self-love by doing this. It should be something that you enjoy doing, taking that time for yourself. But as a clinical hypnotist, I know that sometimes we can keep sort of shifting some outside stuff, but unless you truly change what's going on the inside, it's not going to stay as a permanent change. So changing the subconscious comes through repetition. If you're continually doing the energy work, then the energies will eventually be speaking to the subconscious to a level where that lesson is going to stick. You're going to be able to find that you're getting a permanent shift in the way that you feel, the way that you act, and who that you are, really. But if you're finding that this energy work isn't enough, then we have to assess why. Why am I feeling this way, and why is this belief not shifting? So, contradictory to what I just said, why is important, but if you continue with why, then you're going to be stuck forever in the here and now. You're never going to work towards healing. So we only ask why so that we can then ask how or what. Why is this happening? Because we need to know how you can move past it, or what it is that you need to do to let it go and move forwards. So if, for instance, your grief is something that's coming from a past trauma, and I'm very sorry if it is, that's terrible, then continually saying why, it happened because this person did this to me, this happened to me, it's because of this, why. You're forever the victim. You're stuck in that. You're not moving forward. So the how and the what is, how do I move away from this? What resources, what lessons, what learnings do I need to be able to put the past in the past and move forward as the happy, vibrant, energetic person that I want to be? So grief, the whys of grief. Social media is a big cause of grief. So you're probably thinking, grief, Jody, no one's died. Yes, but you don't have to grieve the loss of someone. You can grieve the loss of yourself, in a sense of who you think you should be. So a lot of people are looking on this social media, seeing everyone on permanent holidays, got lots of money, never have to work, and you grieve. You think to yourself, but I'm so smart, or, I studied this, or I know that, or I'm funnier than them, if it's fitness, I'm stronger than them, I'm a better cook than them, whatever it is that you're watching, and you're feeling that self-esteem issues coming up, that solar plexus issue happening, you're grieving that it's not you. So you've not got that self-love in your heart, and you've got that ego state where it should be me, I should have this, it's not fair, and it is this horrible grief cycle. So that's one why. What about the how? There are always, everyone's so individual, there are always a million different ways of moving on or forwards from something, but in this scenario I would point out two main ones. The first one is just purely embracing self-love. So getting that self-esteem and self-love and going, yeah, like, good on that person. They're doing great. They're doing all these amazing things. It's such hard work. Go them. And I don't need that because I love my life. I am extremely happy the way I am. And everything around me is beautiful. I don't need to be jealous or feel resentment towards this other person. Great. If that's what you need, if you're happy with what you are, then perfect. Perfect. That's so great. We just need to help you accept that. Option two is, if you're watching that and you're going, no, I'm not happy with how I am, I want what they have, or I want something else. Ego, I'm so good at this, I should be able to do this. Well, then fucking do it. What is holding you back? A lot of people in this day and age think that they deserve great things. They deserve money, they deserve a great job, they deserve a great partner, but they're not willing to work for it. They believe it will just happen for them. They can just sit there and continuing the patterns that they have, continue being what they're being, and all of this stuff will just come along and be like, hey, I'm some money, I'm going into your bank account now. That is not how it happens. So you need to shift that belief, you need to start goal setting, and you need to really move forwards with a plan. Find out what's blocking you from getting those things and smash those blockages apart. Get a new belief, get a new value system, get some motivation. As a coach, that's something I can help with. If you were interested, reach out to me, but otherwise it's also something that perhaps you just need to look within yourself at finding out these questions. The next couple of points I want to bring up in why is directly related to the lung meridian and the large intestine meridian being the metal element. So different meridians have different elements in traditional Chinese medicine. So I'm just going to read these questions so that I get the wording right. So remembering that there's always excess and then that there's deficiency. So each question can go too much or too little. So are you being too hard on yourself or not hard enough on yourself or others? Too hard on yourself or others, or not hard enough on yourself or others? Again, let's come back to this, I want this, I should have it. Either say, I'm happy with what I am. So you're being too hard on yourself. You're actually, life is fantastic. You're great. You want to keep it the way that I am. I'm perfect. You know, I might not have a six pack, but my body is wonderful and I have great self-esteem. Or you're not being hard enough on yourself. So you're not getting out there and getting shit done. You're not getting that fire up into you and getting that motivation. And if you continue to not doing that, you'll never achieve what you need. The next question, are you too focused on adornment or appearance? So thinking metal, we're thinking shiny metal things. This day and age, again, big one. Lots of people have the big puffy lips or the fillers or hair extensions, eyelash extensions, fake nails, whatever that is. And if you do that and you enjoy that and you feel good about it, great, good for you. Why not? If it makes you happy, do it. If you're doing it because you have low self-esteem, because you have this grief, this sense of loss that you don't look the way you should look, you know, people don't respond to you the way that you think that they should, you're not feeling sexy or attractive, whatever it is, and you're grieving that, then that's absolutely something that needs to change. So you need to work within yourself, either with or without the help of someone else, to fix that. On the flip side, you can do what I was doing a couple of months ago and going the other direction. So are you not focusing on yourself enough? I went through a a really lovely stage of looking like a total greaseball and dressing like an absolute bogan, which if you're happy with that, great. But when I would look in the mirror and see that, I wasn't happy with it. I was definitely needing to fire things up, to change that, to shift my beliefs, sort of to say, why am I doing this? What's going on? And, you know, look, I'm not a glamorous person, but I've got myself at least back to what I think is a nice presentable level. So I've sort of worked on that within myself and managed to find a way to make myself feel good about myself, projecting my physical appearance, however it is that that manifests for you, great. It's so individual. There are 1,001 different ways that that can shift, but that's something to look at within yourself. Am I doing too much or not enough of the physical adornment? And then last but not least, metal again, thinking back to that theme, do you need a hard shell or a barrier of boundaries to protect yourself? Or do you not have enough of one? So have you put up this hard protective shell and you're not letting people in, which is causing grief? You're not getting that connection, that heart connection, that self-esteem connection. You're probably potentially doing it for self-esteem or self-love issues. So you've put up this wall. Or it could be the opposite. Your barriers are down and you need to put some up. So you need to stop being a doormat, essentially, put up some barriers and stop being walked all over. This, for me, was unbelievably powerful. So just during an exercise that I was doing as a class when studying for my clinical hypnotism uh, diploma, certification, we did an exercise on boundaries, and the teacher actually ran the class thinking that people needed to be putting boundaries up, right? So a lot of people are getting walked all over, and he sort of ran it in a sense of how do you put up a better boundary. And when I went into trance mode and was looking at my own boundaries, I realized that I was dug deep down into a hole. So my boundary wasn't just a picket fence or something. I was in a hole. Like, there was dirt there. No one could see me. I couldn't see anyone else. It was intense. I was pretty emotional as we were doing this. And so he walked me through the process, and we sort of brought me up. I came up too high, almost had a panic attack. No, came back down to a normal level, was happy. I put my fence up, I put my hedges in. I did what was right for me, which is so individual to every person. And since that moment, I can look people in the eye. I used to never be able to make eye contact. I had this weird, I thought I was autistic. I couldn't look people in the eye. My eyes would start watering. I'd just feel so flustered and uncomfortable, particularly males, females too, but especially males. I just couldn't. It was like staring into the sun, I couldn't do it. And since this little boundaries exercise, gone, just like that, which is very helpful, because another one of the teachers in the class, I was actually, for whatever reason, I did speak to him about it, and he made a few jokes which kind of resonated. For whatever reason, he was particularly difficult for me to look at, which is hard when you're trying to learn from someone. So after this exercise was done, I felt like I could connect with him, I could look with him, I could just have a conversation with him, which is so good, so nice to be able to have a conversation from someone that is a mentor to you. So yeah, looking at boundaries or that hard shell is going to be a huge thing if you've got grief, and definitely something that I want you to be able to talk to yourself and listen to see if it's something that you need. So yeah, basically that's it. Run through this video as many times as you need. Play with the flushing the meridians, play with the source point. So L9, LU9 and LI4, the two source points, lung and large intestine. Think about whether you're letting things go. Think about whether you're feeling a sense of grief, feeling issues with boundaries, physical appearance, self-esteem, and see how you go with that. If you do feel like you would like to book a session or have some further help, then absolutely contact me. Findingbalance.com.au is actually my physical therapy page. Findingbalancehypnotherapy.com.au is my modern psychology page. So that's clinical hypnotism and coaching work and energetic work as well. One last thing. I'm sorry, this is longer than it should be. I didn't plan on making such a long video. In terms of lung issues, if you actually are experiencing breathing problems, or like me, you got a bit of mucus in there, then there was actually a picture going around from the medical bodies. I think it was actually an American government poster that was getting posted all over Facebook, and it was positions to put your body in, specifically if you're suffering from COVID-19, to help you with your breathing. And so essentially, and I will post that picture in the comments, essentially what it was laying on your stomach and putting pillows underneath you so that your bum was up in the air, or if you got a chair and flipped it over, laying sort of bum up, legs and face down. When I was looking at this, straight away 2 yoga poses came to mind. So the first one is the melting heart yoga pose. Beautiful for opening up here, for stimulating the heart chakra. I mean, it's called Melting Heart is literally named after the incredible things that it does for your heart chakra. So I'll post a picture of that in the comments as well. And the second that came to mind is the downward facing dog, which even if you're not a yogi, you're probably very familiar with. So again, it's pretty similar, bum up in the air, hands and feet down on the ground. Downward facing dog is incredible for all meridians basically, because you've got everything's active. I mean, your hands are active, you're pushing down through your wrists, your fingers should be, the meridians up through your fingers, up your arm should be activated. So of course it's going to get your lung and large intestine meridians, but it's especially powerful for bladder meridian. So bladder meridian comes up and then runs down the back of your body. It's an extremely long meridian and its emotion is fear. So in the current situation that we're in, grief absolutely is happening and fear is definitely a big player. So I just thought that was interesting that downward facing dog was sort of the position that came to my mind, especially because on the meridian time wheel, lung meridian is 3 until 5 a.m. and bladder meridian is 3 until 5 p.m. So they're actually each other's high tide and low tide. So if you think about high tide at one end, so at 3 to 5 a.m., I'm sorry, the mirroring of this screen is confusing me. 3 to 5 a.m. of lung over here, it's going to be at its peak, then bladder meridian is going to be down. If it's at its peak and doesn't come down to where it should be because it's, got blockages, got issues, then bladder's never going to quite, the balance isn't quite happening there. Likewise with the large intestine meridian, so 3 until 5 a.m. lung, 5 until 7 a.m. is large intestine because it follows straight on, so bringing it in, but then you've got to release it. They're a bit like a seesaw too. So if one's up, the other one's down, and if the other one's down, then one's up. So really it's all about finding that balance. Another point which I find quite funny is that they suggest the best time for meditation breath work is actually between 3 to 5 a.m. So if you're a morning person, or if you wake up at that time, if you're having lung issues, grief issues, breathing issues, you're probably finding that you're waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. anyway because the energy is just not right at that time. It is the best time for breathing. Likewise, 5 until 7 a.m. energetically is the best time to let go. So if you can do a poo at that time, awesome. Every day should be part of your routine. Let's not go there. It's a bit too personal and it's a whole different topic, but I just wanted to add that one there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, sing out. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not taking face-to-face appointments at the moment, obviously, just because of what's happening with the world, but it would be beautiful just to get in touch. I'm going to try and post videos like this as regularly as I can now that I am essentially, for the most part, unemployed. So I should have lots of time to do these things. So like my page, give me a follow, reach out. If you've got something that you're interested in and that you'd like to see a video on, hit me up and I will try and get it out to you. Otherwise, stay safe and have a great day.